If it's about something on the agenda already, if you could hold those until that time, that'd be great. So I'll open it now. Is there any community comments?
I was going to talk to Jackie about it, but I'm going to bring it up. Vincent Power Station, you know, they put all that equipment, transformers in, like probably 8 more times than what it was. The hump off that thing at night. We're planning on whenever they'll sell our house. That hump is killing us. And we can't soundproof the house. I already looked into this, I looked online, and it's the transformers. Edison promised they put a block wall, supposedly 8 foot or 10 foot, whatever. It doesn't even touch it. The stuff's raised up, and they got an earth berm off Angeles Forest Highway. It doesn't stop it. It just penetrates up the mountain.
Okay, so let me pull up the Tri-Tip EIR and see what they said about the noise from the transformers and what their mitigation measures would be, because I don't remember, it's about 10 years ago, I don't remember all the details.
They say they're controlled over 65 decimals or whatever. If it's over that, then they're in trouble, which is it's a low energy hum, and it's this
No, I understand.
In the daytime, it's not so bad. It's because you got other noises around, but at night, we're, you know, I mean, we don't know what to do.
Also at night, they tend to send a lot of power. They tend to actually work harder at night oftentimes because they're sending a lot of power up to PG&E. So, which is counter, you wouldn't think that's the case, but Edison does send a lot of power up there directly from Vincent.
Yeah.
So let me see, because they should have looked at that. I know they looked at noise in that area. They should have identified mitigation measures. But even if they didn't properly quantify the noise, and I understand low frequency noises are much more
They penetrate.
well, and that's the problem with the high-speed rail as well, right? So 70 decibels of low frequency is much more disruptive than 70 decibels of a higher frequency. So we'll have to look and see if they looked at the frequency issue, what the mitigations were. They can actually put up, and a lot of places is doing this, insulation walls between the transformers.
That's bad.
So, and those things can be 4 inches wide, and they can be 20 feet tall, and they're perfectly fine, and we've discussed that with the PUC on other, my firm has on other transmission projects. So let me pull up the EIR. Edison's coming to the meeting on November 4. So to talk about the PSPS and the fire hardening and the helicopters that aren't supposed to be here anymore. So that would be also a recommendation, but give me a little time to do some research, and then, so can you come back on the 4th?
Yes, Jackie, I appreciate it. We talked about it a while back, but it wasn't so bad. I mean,
Well, I mean, there's another, they're up to over 50,000 acres of renewable generation in the Antelope Valley, and that all comes to Vincent. Every megawatt comes to Vincent. So, anyway, so we'll just give me some time to check it out. So. All right. Okay. A couple of things. We've been contacted by a resident who's being forced to look at a really offensive sign with foul language on it, and she's asked us to modify the CT to ban such signage. She points out that if that sign were at Shell or Jack in the Box, the community would be up in arms about it. She's contacting regional planning to see if they would entertain such a restriction on the CSD. If so, we can agendize it for a future meeting. The county has said comments about it being free speech, so we can't do anything about it. However, there are cases where if it's free speech that's, if our speech is meant to be incite a reaction, then it's not protected speech. And this woman claims that that's the purpose of this. So that's,
Jackie, I saw the email. What exactly is, it's on a motorhome?
yes,
Or a
with a
trailer or
big
something?
sign towards her
Yes,
house that says bad words on it.
And what are the words? I think it's.
I'm not going to say.
Yes.
Yes.
It wasn't an email.
It was,
yeah,
it was a
attached
picture.
picture.
Yeah. There's a picture.
No, can I see that, please? Because I didn't see the
There's
picture.
a lot more to that one.
There always is. I just.
Yeah.
She wrote, she wrote Richard Marshallian. Did you
Well,
see that?
I asked
And he's
her.
a-
There's an open piece.
Yes.
It's a bunch of nonsense, but yeah.
Well, but that's bad. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no call for that now, I think.
And he told her he would look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Not an
because
innocent party though.
well, yeah, I'm not, nobody should have to look at that no matter what. But I explained that, I told her that if the county considers this to be a free speech issue, then I'm not certain they would allow us to do something with the CSD, but if you can swing them, then we'd certainly, pick that issue up, so. Okay, so,
Where is it? They say
What area?
what location?
Where is it?
Corollas,
Okay,
I think, right?
okay.
I don't know, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. There's community coffee with Assemblyman Lackey and Senator Wilk, October 26th at the Acton Community Center from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Encourage everyone to come. Public Works has agreed to attend the November 4 meeting to discuss the new county water fees on our property taxes and what the program is and how it will affect us and whether it will benefit us. Zoe International responded to our outreach just this morning and has offered to attend the November 18 meeting to present their project in Agua Dulce. It's in Agua Dulce, just on the other side of the CSD boundary. A resident sent a video of the uncontrolled filming problems on Soledad that received last-minute approval the day of the shoot. Apparently, lighting, smoke, driving through smoke, you couldn't even see anything, it was terrible. And there were no policemen present. No traffic control, nothing.
Is this another instance of a?
This is just Thursday night.
Okay.
This is new, yes. And this film permit was approved like 4 hours,
Yeah,
6
less
hours
than 8 hours.
before we came in and boom. It was linked to filming being done at Middleton Ranch, but there was no, my understanding is the lighting at Middleton Ranch was not a problem. It was not focused on the street, so, which has been a problem in the past, but not this time. So that's good. Since I haven't had a chance to write the letter that we agreed to at the last meeting, we can add this recent event to the letter. I just haven't had a chance to write that letter. A resident tried to send video of trash flying all around McDonald's because they don't have enough trash cans. So there's the one that they have is always overflowing and causing litter everywhere. The resident has complained to McDonald's manager multiple times and even went to corporate customer service complaints and posted complaints on the internet, but nothing has happened. So I was wondering if we could put that on the agenda for the next meeting, perhaps, although that's full now. So,
We can get it on there.
okay. Public Works was contacted about some very serious water leaks on Sierra Highway and Escondido Canyon Road. We were told they would be fixed soon. I attended the CPA workshop on how programs and ideas to improve health outcomes. The CPA is the Clean Power Alliance, our new power source. The presentations made by Public Health and others on Public Health didn't even have Antelope Valley on their maps. And the fact that the health statistics include I pointed out that their own health statistics show that cancer, childhood asthma, COPD, low birth weight babies is worse in the AV than anywhere else in the county. Their interest is really just purely in making LA carbon free, because apparently that will solve all the health problems in the city. That was kind of the impression I got. But there was no interest in considering the adverse impacts on AV residents that will be created by the construction and operation of hundreds of thousands of acres of utility scale solar in the AV, not to mention the fire hazards and apparently noise hazards posed by the fully subscribed high voltage power lines running through our community and other communities, I will say, San Canyon area. When I mentioned it, the room just went silent and then they moved on. The governor signed AB 68, making all single family residence properties eligible to be converted into triplexes. It relaxes the accessory dwelling unit requirements and establishes junior accessory dwelling units opportunities as well. So you can have a 1,200 square foot ADU and an 800 square foot, maybe it was 800 square foot ADU and 150 square foot junior ADU, something like that. However, it does not waive any septic or well compliance obligations. So you'd still have to show you can put in a well to serve all 3 homes, which is hard enough to get into a well. Yeah, and you'd have to have adequate septic. So I don't know. honestly, I don't see that this having a huge impact on our community, but it is a big deal everywhere else. County said that they would get back to us about trail opportunities in the Ravenna area. The letters we sent regarding the water hauler CUPs and the interim housing ordinances were received by the county. We received an email asking whether Acton is a good place for planting fruit trees. I have not back to him yet, but will do so as soon as I can. And I have not yet reached out to the agricultural commissioner, but I will do so as soon as possible. We agreed to do that in the last meeting, so. And that's it. Unless somebody else has something else.
No, I think we were okay, Jackie. The only one that didn't
Oh.
open was this.
I need to read these. I might come back to this issue.
These are clean.
Okay, okay, all right.
Okay,
Just double check something.
just, that's the meeting.
Yes, yes,
Come back.
yes, yes.
Any comments?
Okay, comments, yes, I have an announcement that I was asked to make tonight, which is kind of a sad announcement. Elizabeth Billet, her cancer has come back, and she, how can I say this?
I know that on the initial outreach was not pleasant, and I know that yesterday, I know I lost power. I got a notification that I lost power, and then lost it for like 10 minutes.
Yep.
And then we had it back, but then a lot of people in Shannon Valley did not have it back, from what I gathered online.
We
And
got it
although I was still, if you went to the Edison site, it said that our power was down.
Yeah.
And then later that evening, we got a notice saying, hey, your power's back on. So I know I was confused, although happily confused because I had power, as to what in the world was going on. We don't seem to know what's on and off.
So I'm on the other side of the freeway,
Yeah.
and conditions were mild, to say the least.
Oh,
What
they
was
were
it like
bad.
when you-
They were not bad.
Okay, so what was
I
the,
think my weather station said, I think the highest peak on yesterday was about 17 or 18 miles an hour.
that's the shift between coastal and desert,
That's
coastal. that we
that's
get
a
every day.
normal average.
Did you lose power?
No,
Okay.
but I was just saying, we had like zero wind, and I was wondering, how bad
Yeah.
could it be on the other side of the 14 freeway?
It was fine.
Yeah, it was not bad, and as the day one progressed, it decreased. And
Right.
so, and I know that somebody had posted online that they had ran into an innocent truck and they basically told me, yeah, we're gonna check out the lines, but it probably won't be on until the evening. So, but I know.
Well, we also got several phone
Yeah, I
calls.
was just gonna say, then we got,
And then when the first shutdown happened, which happened after the last town council, so we talked about this, it was for several days. And then Edison, which they never told us about this when they were here, have a mobile service truck
yes,
that they
showed up.
eventually made it down to Agua Dulce, in the
And
women's
I did
club.
request that
The
they.
US that came up here, but I don't think
They
you
did not, and I actually didn't get a reply, even like
Oh, you didn't?
no, they didn't
All
reply.
right, I'm just gonna have to say that offering a cell phone charging station
Is,
doesn't go very far in terms of maybe having your power turned off,
Right, yeah.
watching your food spoil, your freezers leak out, you
Well,
not
also,
being able to get out of your electric gates, I mean, not having any water pressure, not having any well pumps,
Yeah.
not having any fire prevention mechanism.
also we didn't have cell phone service anyway.
yeah.
So otherwise,
Yeah,
I
I
did.
think,
You lost your cell
I
phone?
did too. Yeah, I about Thursday, about 7 o'clock that night, I didn't have cell service. In fact, I didn't know there was a fire down in Santa Clara until I got to work and no one was there. And I'm like, where is everybody? And finally somebody shows up and says, man, it's really crazy out there. I was like, yeah, where's everybody? There's a fire. Oh, I did not know because I had no electricity for TV, no cell phone service.
Yep.
And yeah, so.
Which ironically, that fire.
That actually, if there was a fire, I wouldn't even be able to communicate to evacuate.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they wouldn't have been able to notify us for
Yeah.
evacuation like they have in the past.
Yeah, last Friday, we were notified that our electricity would be out
Yeah.
between 9:30 and 5:30. So.
They gave you that window of time?
That's
Yeah,
like a maintenance.
For
For
maintenance.
maintenance.
For maintenance. So I said, okay, she was gone, so I was going to the Palmdale Highlands football game. And I figured that'd be enough time for the refrigerator will start warming up, it'll be fine. Well, little did I know, when I came home at 10:15, it was still off. No text, no phone call, no nothing.
For maintenance still.
For maintenance still. So I took a picture of the refrigerator because we have the temperature on the outside. And I went online, I called, and really can't say anything because the lady's very nice and she has nothing to do with it. So, but I did get online and I filed a claim of spoilage of food. I said, I'm not sure whether it's spoiled, but the freezer had unfrozen and I'm not going to eat it. Thereby, I have 10 pounds of hamburger meat. I got at Costco, this much. So I filed the whole thing and I filed it. I figured if anything, I'm going to make a paper trail and I'm going to harass them on it. So I highly recommend for people, because I said if you would have called or left a message, I was only in Palmdale, I would have left the game. It was colder than hell anyway. I would have left the game and came up and plugged in the generator for the refrigerator. But I didn't hear anything, so I took for granted the electricity was on at 5:30.
Yeah, well, and even further, so it's maintenance, I'm assuming they're doing still more hardening.
Yeah.
My question is I know they've hardened the entire area of the Shannon Valley. You can see the insulated conductors, in fact, my uncle works for LAWP, and he was over on Sunday, and he was, they had done some, you could tell that they had done work there. So my question is, wasn't that all supposed to be what helped not start fires?
Because they shut down because they said when they were here, the problem is with the distribution lines, which are the lines that serve our homes, and with flying debris. Well, once you insulate the conductors, then there's no concern with flying debris.
Yeah,
so,
but in the LA Times, I had an article about PG&E, and they said that this will be a 10-year process, that they'll slowly but surely not, shut down less and less homes. But they expect to be shutting off homes for 10 years.
but Edison is not supposed to be as antiquated.
Yes.
And many parts in Acton, all the distribution lines are underground already, so they're not above ground.
Although I know areas of Canyon Country that are underground got turned off as well. So it seems like there's...
When they send, there's 3 main circuits in Acton, okay? There's the bootlegger circuit, which is nowhere near bootlegger. It's on the east side. And then there's the pick and shovel circuits. Pick circuit and shovel circuit. Shovel, I think, is up Shannon Valley. Pick is like Hubbard Road and southwestern Acton. And the 2 overlap at the high school. So theoretically, and one of the emails we sent out was, well, if you have to turn off the shovel, but don't turn off the school, serve it with the pick, right? Or if you turn off the pick, serve the school with
and
the
also,
shovel.
what magically keeps debris from blowing over that invisible magic line, too?
But it sounds to me like even within those circuits, some have power, some don't. So really, what we need is a better understanding of what the actual circuits are. They can shut off because...
Well, and they need a better way to communicate that, because like I said, they said that the shovel circuit was off. But I know that from just anecdotal stuff online, that probably, I know some people on Shannondale, up from you on the other side, were off. And people all the way up via Famero were off. But the island in the middle was on.
Which makes no sense, because if the circuit is done, then the circuit's gone. So we need a granular understanding of their configuration.
And even then, I got goofy communication, because it said, your power's off, it was not off. So at least if I knew that, well, I don't care, but I don't care what's happening 3 blocks over, my house is on. Okay, I don't have to worry about my house. But instead I'm told, well, no, it's off. So now you plan the whole day going, okay, well, I'm not going to have power for an indeterminate amount of time. And, fine, I get they can't control weather. But I also have questions about what was the point of the 3 outages? I didn't have that many. I know some of the folks here have had 9, 10 outages during the summer. 11 outages.
Maintenance outages.
I had 3. And 3 to retrofit stuff, and that seems to have done nothing, because I know that last year I didn't have power outages when it was super windy. This year they did mitigation, and now I do have power outages.
Well, what's the point of having an insulated line if it's not energized? So if their copper line, not energized, is just as benign as an insulated line, that is energized. So why do they spend all this money and put us through all this if it doesn't even solve the problem?
Well, they're going to turn it off anyway.
Right. So we get upgraded, and then we get turned off.
Still get shut off.
Well, no, we get shut off. We didn't when it was uninsulated. Right. So it's like...
Well, I mean, but
I get it. But the bottom line is, like, it seems really goofy that we were told, hey, you got to endure the helicopters, you got to endure the outages, you got to endure all this stuff, because we're going to make improvements that are going to prevent these fires from starting. Great. Fine, well, and I think the majority of the folks that I talked to that were in favor and okay with helicopters and whatnot, okay, this is good, it's going to prevent fire. Well, so it's just turning off everything, which is what they're doing anyway. so.
Well, and Jeremiah, what Donna's saying is so accurate, because they send us a notice saying it's gonna be off from 8:30 to 4:30, whatever, and it's still off at
It's on.
11 o'clock at
Yeah,
night.
and they never
They're never
notify
right.
you that
Yeah.
they had problems, it's going to extend the time.
And they have your contact info, because you got the notice.
You got the notice the
Yeah, and
first
then they
time.
go, oh, you can check on the website, well, I would if I had.
If I was-
Wi-Fi. Yeah. I could tape a note.
Or cell phone service works when they turn it off.
Yeah, and our phones don't work, we're feeling very isolated.
Do we know which representatives from Edison are coming? Is it the same three that came out a few months ago? Because
I know
they
it.
didn't have any answers.
At minimum, it's Ms. Seal. So I can ask for other people.
Because I remember very clearly, they said we'd get back to you. You asked them questions and they're like, they skirted around. If all of these things that you brought up are very important, maybe we should send them the questions ahead of time
So they can have.
so that they can have answers, because they're going to come in again
Yeah.
and if it's the same three as before, if that's the best they can do,
It's not very
that's
helpful.
not very good.
Okay, so we can do that.
When they were here, they also said that part of this upgrade with insulated wires was to put in more switches so they can control
And that may have
the
been-
circuits in smaller
And that may have been what was
Yes.
going on up there, but the problem is their notification system has not kept up with that ability, in which case nobody knows what's going on. And you have people wondering, hey, why is my neighbor that I can throw a rock and hit them, why are they off, but I'm on?
That's strange.
Or vice versa, which is weird. And then that's why I'm saying too, if we're worried about flying debris, what invisible shield do they have that maybe our military wants to block things from landing on the lines? Because,
One guy's on.
yes, it makes no sense.
So do you guys want to compile some questions?
I think that would be
And
good.
maybe have the community send questions that they want?
Yeah,
We can send
email it, yeah.
kind of package and send ahead of time?
You wanna send that to Jackie, Don?
So my concern, just seeing it from my point of view, I was off for 30 hours and I have one of those cane country underground. They told me it was we're part of the Agua Dulce circuit.
Yes.
Because we're so far north.
Yep.
That after 12 hours, and we have a cell phone tower right there, that if they don't put up a physical generator, the batteries are done.
Yeah.
So I woke up middle of the night, urinating in the middle of the night. You guys know what I'm talking about? And I see the fire from the valley. I can't check anything.
No, cut off.
And at all, like, how close is it? Now, I mean, I have the luxury of calling the station saying, hey, where the heck is this? To find out if I need to evacuate again or not. But that was my biggest concern, was how, like, there was no infrastructure there, like, whatsoever, 12 hours, and that was it.
And another issue tied to that is if folks have certain landlines, people say, oh, if you have a landline, it's fine. Not true. If you have something like, if you're using Spectrum for it, the unit will have a small battery which will run for a certain amount of time. After a certain while, it will be exhausted, in which case, now you have no landline either. So even if you knew to call or wanted to call, you're back in the same boat with no cell phone, now no landline.
And Spectrum has like a little base at the bottom of our hill, and they had to bring in on the second day.
Yeah, generators.
I generated to run that because people didn't have cable, because the actual distribution of the Spectrum was unable.
So one of the things you want to ask them is have Edison make sure all the cell towers in the area have generators.
Yeah. If they're going to shut it down, yeah, I think that I mean, that's critical to communication, especially in some
The
of
way it works for evacuations, at least, if you call us and you say, hey, there's a fire in my hill, great, we'll respond, we need to get a helicopter, putting PA announcements, hey guys, there's an evacuation coming, but someone needs to notify us unless we see it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's my.
And in some of these areas that are tucked
No
back,
one's
no
gonna
one can
see
see it.
Exactly.
And the other thing too is just because they've turned off the power lines doesn't preclude a fire starting in another way. I mean, what was the one out by the, that mobile home park where they dumped the load? That was
Oh, yes.
So it wasn't even,
Yeah.
yeah, it had nothing to do with electrical lines. So basically they could, it's windy, which are the conditions that you don't want to have fire in. A fire inadvertently starts from somebody throwing a cigarette out and anything. Now we have fire and now.
People camping on vacant land and building campfire?
That as well.
Yeah.
And so you go from that to now you can't even call it in, so.
Yeah, but the Saddlestack fire started, it started underneath the transformer, so.
No, it started
Yeah, that's-
underneath a transmission line,
Was
which
the
is
transmission line
really,
the source of the fire?
which
They haven't done
which
it.
is the
That's
fact,
it for sure.
they haven't said for certain, but Edison has said, well, we had a problem at the time the fire started at that tower.
Oh, really?
So, and that's the big myth here, because the
Tri-tip is not being shut off.
The Paradise Fire was not a distribution line, it was a sub-transmission line. The Saddle Valley was not distribution, that was a transmission. That tower was a 500 kV or 220 kV transmission line. So we're going through all of this stuff because of the line we've been told is that it's the distribution that causes these fires. Now, sometimes that's true, but many fires, including I think the Witch or the Rice fire down in 2007, really bad.
It was which fire?
Some of those were distribution, but some of them were transmission and sub-transmission. So it's like,
The other problem is, Acton, and I would also say too, is not paradise. This is not a one-way in, one-way out community that's overdeveloped with one little teeny way to get in and out. We've got tons of egress and here. So the fact that if there was a fire and people are the commodity they're trying to protect, not so much the property, there's a lot of ways for people to get in and out of Acton.
Well, if they know there's a problem.
If they know there's a problem. So shutting it off doesn't really, it doesn't. And then I think my wife wants to talk about the school and the impact on the school district, right?
Well,
Would you
I
please?
think that's a school board thing.
No, I think it's important because we have a school board member and that member could probably bring back the knowledge, something he heard here tonight to the school board.
I'm just surprised that a brand-new high school made out of concrete up on a hill with brush clearance was, out of school for a day and a half. It concerns me. We've got seniors, they got to graduate, they don't get a second chance. Why would you shut down school? And if you do, I was wondering, and I guess this is for the school board, is why are they going to contact the PUC? Are they going to, I would be concerned. You can't just do this to our kids and they got a letter last week too, apparently it didn't shut down. But if this is going to be the new norm, this is concerning. Because this is this kid's education, especially at the high school. This is serious stuff, and if they're not going to do something about it, then, Tom was telling me that the PUC takes all letters from anyone into consideration. So it's not like I need 20 parents. If I write a good enough letter, maybe they'll hear me out.
Are there backup generators at the school?
No, they don't.
There's not. I was told that by the superintendent that there's 8 snow days built into the school, so that's what they've been using for these power outages. If it goes over those days, then
We could have snow.
But we could have snow. Right, and that is what we were talking about at our house is, okay, so you got 8 snow days. We have wind, okay, first of all, we've got maybe around June or maybe a little earlier, we start with the heat in summer, all right? So we're under a public safety shut off immediately. All right, and then you make it through and it's no longer hot because now we're in October, but Santa Ana's typically from October all the way through December, maybe even into January, Santa Ana events. So we're looking at over half the year to be under public safety shut off. So how many days does the school district have? 8 snow days? What happens when they no longer can meet the educational requirements of the state? Suddenly the kids have to stay longer, they have to keep the school open. Parents can't, what do parents do during the day when the kids can't go to school? I mean, the ramifications of this thing and the way it trickles down into our everyday's life is just ridiculous.
well, that's why,
And so Brandon, I know you can't comment as a school board member, but please take it back to the school board and say, you know what, we are a county state entity and we should have a say on this and say, you know what, let's go to the PUC and explain to them how this is going to affect our school district. Because it's going to be significant, believe me. And then what happens when we actually did get those snow days? Because they do happen here.
oh yeah.
So combine the snow days and the heat days and the power shut off days, and how do we get through the school year? I think it's a really, really important fact, important thing that they overlook completely. Or if they did look at it, they certainly didn't consider it as something, that required any thought.
So that's one of the things that I was trying, why I've been going to the CPA meetings, to try to get them into supporting projects like putting solar panels up in the high school parking lot with battery backup, so that they'll never go offline. Now, there is somebody who, they gave a presentation at the school board meeting about 1.5 years ago, but it was a private company, and the guy swore, he said straight up that, oh no, we don't sell the power to Edison. Are you telling me you're gonna generate all this power in July with schools not using it? They were offering the school board were exorbitantly high, because the school, it was a deal where they put the solar things up there, and then the school buys power from them at a fixed cost for the next 30 years, which was, I thought the rates were extremely high, that they were being charged. So, so that was not, it was a plan, but not a plan that would protect the school from power outages and brownouts like you're talking about. So that's, if the CPA would just, the Clean Power Alliance, they're supposed to be building these big generation things, that's where they need to build it, not out in the Antelope Valley.
They need
and
to
make
take-
the transformers that the Vincent go berserk. So, I don't know, maybe that's an opportunity of the school board. I've been pushing it, I've mentioned it to the school board, I've mentioned it to CPA. Every public meeting I go to a CPA, I've been to several of their workshops. Go down to LA all the time, and I can't seem to get through to them. So it's exhausting, but maybe that's the hook we can use for CPA for the school board. Hey, we're in trouble now. Because even though CPA is our supplier, we still are served by Edison. So.
Well, I want to take it one step further. I would like to see something like the school board and the town council maybe together unwind some of this.
Oh,
So we don't have to go through this for no reason.
I agree. It's a lot of work.
It would be a lot of work, but, you know,
You're right.
if somebody can make the case that's legitimate, it will unwind it. In one single case, right, Jackie? It's all it takes. This is not a court of public opinion. This is actually
fact. Yep.
So one single case with the correct facts could unwind this and make them go back and represent it in a way that works with the community.
And what PG&E announced the other week about, well, in 10 years we'll be able to avoid all this, that means it's possible to avoid it.
Right.
So what is, well, we need to hear what, okay,
What
so maybe we can suck it up for a year if Edison needs to do whatever it is they need to do. They are not gonna take 10 years. They need to get us to a place where they, my understanding is Edison's plan is to have these PSPSs whenever it's necessary. That's not what we want. We want to have things built in a way that it never happens again.
Absolutely.
If PG&E can sunset in 10 years, then Edison needs to be able to sunset. And that's one of the things I
Well,
want to
that's
ask.
one of the questions we should ask them,
Yeah,
because they have not even.
what is PG&E proposing that's going to get them to that 10 years and how different than what you've been doing?
And by the way, LADWP is never going to do PSPSs. They've announced it.
No, they would have it would be a social disaster.
And there are places served by DWP, the public, DPW, whatever.
DWP, Department of Water Power.
Sorry.
Yes.
That are in high fire hazard areas that are rural like ours, it's, you know, and area. So.
Yes.
When you say unwind it, you mean filing a case with the PUC?
Yes.
Okay.
And make them go back and reevaluate it.
How they're doing it.
Yeah.
Or there's already a case, a rulemaking case open, but we've agreed to pursue becoming an intervener, but that's just a lot of lift that I haven't been able to get to. I still haven't even gotten the letters that I'm supposed to write from.
Yeah.
I've written most of them, but I'm missing two still, so. It's just a lot
It
of
just
work.
seems suspicious that we get shut off for 2 days, a rural area with not a lot of businesses. But I played that morning in Silmar, a golf tournament, and it was barely to stand on the tee box, the wind was howling. Yet their electricity was on. Granada Hills was on.
Yeah, and that's all above the ground,
Despite
too.
they were on
It's not
fire
just-
and it was on.
Yeah.
Because of
They are
riots. They get riots.
dense and a lot of businesses. They don't want to affect, you know, it's easier to shut off rural areas with single-family homes and say, look, we tried. But why?
Because they don't think we're going to do anything.
Right.
Because they'll riot.
Powerful enough, we only vote for one supervisor, all that. So.
Right, but put on tinfoil hat, I'm gonna say this relates to sustainability. This is gonna be that you are not sustainable case. We have to turn your power off for public safety.
Yeah.
Therefore, rural life is not sustainable. I think, I mean, I hate to draw that conclusion, but based on what is going on with the
rest of
the sustainability that's going on with the county, the whole deal, it kind of fits.
You know what?
And I hate to say that because sounds like a conspiracy and it sounds
No,
like a
no,
nugget.
it's actually not a conspiracy, because let me tell you what, I watched the planning commission hearing from about a month ago, and there was a presentation made by regional planning implementing the sustainability plan. And the first thing that they're going to be rolling out by next month that's what she said, their hope is to get it out by November, is to have a program looking at development restrictions in high fire climate change areas. Okay? And they're going to adopt an SCA approach, which means they're going to put an entire overlay on our community and adopt some sort of moratorium. So I meant to put that in as my announcement, as one of my announcements, but it's
They
yes.
already effectively have a moratorium. They're making buildings so hard. No, but I talked to
Well,
people-
apparently it's going to be even harder.
Well, I mean, I remember in the early days when there was a moratorium on septic systems. They wouldn't let you, and of course, without septic system, you couldn't build anything. And that was back in the late 80s. So I know I got caught in it because my husband and I were going to build. But, you know, that they've effectively cut off building right now. There's no new business, there's no new, it's one or two houses go in and that's it. So.
And
how
the
much
fact that
worse
they're
are they
holding
gonna
up the
make it?
hauled water CUPs, they really just don't want those hauled water people to be there. And when that happens, half our town disappears. I mean, just disappears.
Yeah, but they can't, Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking they can't, the county can't legally throw us to the wolves and say, we're not going to give CUPs to the water haulers, and therefore you're going to have to, you know, give up your
Buy
houses.
the water from somebody in Pear Blossom or something like that? I don't know.
I
I
just
mean, there's
guess.
water haulers in Pear Blossom, and I know Acton water gets trucked out to Pear Blossom too.
Not so much anymore. They're really just, because they're so restricted now, these truck route rules, they're just servicing our town. That's what they told us.
Oh, I don't know, they were, last summer they were going out to.
Yeah, but not
I'm
anymore.
out to Juniper Hills. 'cause I
So,
know
but they can't legally
it's
do it,
good
what
water.
they could do is squeeze them until they die.
Well,
And that's what's going down right now. So
squeeze
these
the
hot water haulers are reluctant to build by the engines that ARB is, their resources boards are
I
requiring.
understand, because I'm.
So it's just a big squeeze
a
job.
couple of them, but what I'm thinking of is the county cuts them off, and they cut us off from a water source for those of us who don't have a well. I don't think they can legally do that without taking over the service in some way. And I know
I
they'd
don't
love
know.
to do it because one.
We may find out.
No, I've never heard a law that backs up what you said.
Not a health
Not
issue.
even
Isn't it a health issue?
The only thing I can think.
No, they announced at the LC Town Council meeting, they'll red tag your house. That's how they address
Well,
health issues.
Well, the only thing
I mean,
I can think to point to is up north, I know some of those towns that ran out of water before we had all the rain. And they literally declared a state of emergency and were trucking in and then dropping off water, but that was like a short-term
Oh, I remember
solution.
reading about that.
Yeah, but there was nothing like, they didn't say, oh, you know.
We're not gonna
we're
keep
gonna-
water.
yeah, well, no, but they didn't come in and say, we're your new water supplier and we're gonna do this. It was, we can't let you, you're not gonna die. But, I'm sorry, I don't know that a couple cases of water is actually making life convenient. So that was until they could get, water online, but.
Well, they could come back and try and put in a water and sewers, system that would,
They're never gonna do that.
well, it's very costly, of course, as we know, and people
Well,
have
we have a lot of
never
fun.
voted for that and actually rejected that idea.
We have that new tax for
But all
that
they have to do is
renewable-
tax it and just say that it's a health issue. And they're going to, put in the infrastructure and,
I know
we're gonna have to pay for it, citizens.
I know of
$200 a lineal foot, I don't want it on my tax bill.
Well, it would be close to $100,000 a household. I know it was close to that 5 or 6, 7 years ago when they did the survey, or longer. So now I'm sure it's a lot more. But, is that what, $1 million a mile or something?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, I don't think they can then tag your house if you're getting water from another source.
I think people will have to
You
become
gotta
their
have
own water
them.
haulers.
Where? Huh?
You're gonna have to become your own water hauler.
How?
Well,
That's a good question.
the water haulers, I know at least one of them would be willing to sell water directly if it came to that. Otherwise,
Yeah,
you
I
get in
don't-
a truck and you fill up yourself.
Yeah,
Getting
I
it
don't
from the
pick it
truck
up.
to your tank is another matter.
I would bet $1 million that the minute that happens, public health
Yeah,
would
shows
be
up,
adopting
yeah.
a moratorium for that, the same way they did in 2002. I mean, if they won't even let
People who do
licensed
it,
water
Yeah,
haulers.
the people who do it, and
I don't, I hope you're right, I don't know of any law, and I'm not a lawyer, so what do I know? But, I mean, I know a lot of laws, and I've read a lot of case laws, and I know a lot about CEQA. But this particular issue, I am aware of nothing that would offer the protections you're.
It just seems like it would be a health issue, that they couldn't.
But public health, he announced very proudly, well, we'll just renovate your house. He's just said it straight out.
Well, just because somebody says something like that, that either
He's a
shows.
health department official.
It's what they're thinking.
I know some other county officials who will remain nameless, but they're the most stupid people I have ever met.
But they have all the
Agreed.
power.
They don't have the power, but they're perfect examples of the Peter principle. They rise to a position of incompetency, and there's a few of them down in
Well,
Los
there
Angeles
is.
that I know of. Pardon?
There is, I've met a couple too, now
I'm
that
sure
you
you have.
described
There's
it.
a lot of people have. But, I don't ask.
It does, but you still have to deal with them. You
Yes,
go,
we do
go
have to
through
deal
them.
with them. But, there's material here for a good lawsuit too.
well,
That's another matter. But
yeah, I
There
think
you
we
go.
kind of wave it off from the Edison doc. Not that it's not important, but
So, all right, so then, if you have questions that you'd like Edison to answer,
send to
Please send
agency at.
kind of make them
actontown.council.org.
cogent and clear, so I don't have to repackage.
We don't have to
Just-
read
So I can
them.
just cut and paste it, if you don't mind. It's like, why are you doing this? That is not a useful question. Like, why are you doing specifically what, and how can you avoid doing?
X, Y.
Yeah, that's much better. So, all right, Edison ruining my life, that's not a question I can.
Well, 30 hours without any kind of power.
Well, and the first
is-
go, that's the first wind event
That
of
was,
the
that
year.
was horrific. It wasn't
Yeah.
anything that I thought I was prepared. I wasn't prepared.
Well, and I'm sorry, the email and the notification saying, please have your emergency plan in place.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
too.
What is
if
that?
this is new
I mean,
routine, okay, because emergency planning means
By
like,
yourself.
okay, I'm meeting my family someplace and we're getting out of Dodge.
Right.
Not
But you need a phone to
shelter in
call.
place. Well, that's what I mean, is like, my emergency plan goes out the window, or it really becomes an emergency, it's like it's a non-emergency emergency. You know?
Calm
Creating their
down.
own emergency.
Yes, it's a created,
But why us and not Granada Hills?
That's a good question, that's a question. So tell me what date, if you could send an email, write down the date, in Sylmar, I was golfing and I got knocked off the tee, it was so windy, but they didn't lose power.
October 17th.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind just,
That's
and
pretty
then,
terrible.
slice
It was
of
the wind.
there was such a mighty swing
Yeah.
created of it.
All right, well, I think we've.
Well, one last thing.
Yeah,
I would like to represent the town council in front of the school board at the next school board meeting and ask them to develop a plan on how they want to deal with this.
I think that's great, you wanna make a motion,
So
or?
I move to go in front of the school board at the next meeting and address them, representing the town council, and request that they at least put together a
We'll sit down with Edison
sit
and
down
figure
or
out.
a thought or a plan or something on how they're going to address this issue. And they-
When is the next school board meeting?
Thursday.
Is it Thursday night?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually we're off sync with them, but this week, but Monday was on a
We'll
seven.
do that on Thursday.
okay, so do we have a second?
I second that.
You have a second? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Vote? Motion's carried. All right, moving on, no parking zone.
Okay, this was my issue, and I've gone by and I've looked at it again, and I think maybe we just need to ask Public Works to do a better job painting the curb, because a car was parked there again, I didn't have a chance to call the chief sheriff's department, but they painted red in front of the McDonald's and part of the in front of Jack in the Box and part of the Shell, but then the areas in front of the fire hydrants are white.
Yeah.
And the part that's red is like really faded red, and there were no signs. So it's already marked
Yeah.
for no parking.
It would
So
solve the
maybe
issue if it was just clearly.
They would just do a better paint job and maybe put up signs, because it's already not allowed to park. They're
Where's
not,
this? Up by Jack in the
in
Box.
front of Jack, I almost got T-boned, I was driving back
I
from
had the
dropping
same
my son
problem
off at the
today.
school, and some people can't see these big honking trucks parked on the red where they're not supposed to park, and the cars are inching out, the good ones, to get out and see if there's traffic, but the bad ones just go right out, and I almost, because I turned right onto Crown Valley, it almost took me out, it was ridiculous.
To the south side of Sierra
Yes,
Highway?
south side. Well, probably also the north, I haven't really looked
No,
at the north side. but-
it's bad, because I was coming out of Shell, and there was at least one, maybe two big rigs that were lined up on that. And step out and meet God, like.
Yeah,
Because there's parking in front of the auto parts store for a little distance. And
Yeah,
you're
but-
saying, but when you.
But between that, yeah.
Between that, is there already no parking zone?
yeah, well, it's,
It's painted.
parts of it are
Parts
red,
It would keep,
and the parts in front of the fire hydrants aren't red, but you can't park there because it's a
Right.
fire hydrant, so it should be red, but
but if it were clearly marked, it would, at least would be, it's the same thing as putting up a sign, right?
That'll all change once the Primo thing is.
yeah.
You'll have to remove
Well, that'll probably be all red there. It's white now, but that'll probably be turned to red. So maybe just repaint it or something.
Yeah, do we?
Just email
Yeah,
public
just
works.
email.
I'll do that, okay, I'll break that down.
All right, next up, Thousand Trails, Mr. Kine.
Yes.
Wherever you're comfortable here.
How about off to the side over here?
Yeah,
Does that
sure.
work? Okay. Well, thank you very much, City Council, for having us here tonight. I'd like to introduce the folks that I brought with me and myself. My name is Jeff Kimes. I'm with Equity Lifestyle Properties and Thousand Trails. I'm responsible for the operations of all of our companies, campgrounds, and some mobile home parks here in the state of California. Altogether, we have 21 campgrounds in California, 15 of which are Thousand Trails parks. So with me today are Brian Kuchenbecker, the manager, brand new manager, hired after a exhaustive nationwide search. So we're very, very happy to have Brian here. Mike Sukol is our director of asset management, handles large-scale capital projects across the state. And Lisa Tedrow is our assistant manager at Thousand Trails Soledad. I have just a couple of minutes of remarks if you like, and then I thought we might just entertain questions and open a dialogue, if that works for you. Okay. So I read in the County Journal a few weeks ago some information which struck me as a little different from my experience with the park. And then some things that rang true that we need to correct and do better. And I thought I might address some of those things that I thought that maybe needed to be corrected in the record a little bit. But one point brought up was about a complaint about some bright LED lighting and a loud PA system. And I'm not sure who made that particular complaint, but we kind of.
It's not a singular person.
Okay, so we kind of have that complaint also, and it's, from my perspective, that's the county rehab facility with their lighting, which is very bright at night, and their PA system, which is very loud. We don't have a PA system, we don't announce anything, and we don't have any bright lighting like that.
You do when you have Bible revivals with over 1,200.
Normal plan of business and not consistent with our operating plan with the county either. So those kind of events shouldn't happen, and we've committed that they won't.
Oh, okay, because I don't think there's any record correction required for that. Those are actual events that occurred, and it is even recently within the last year. And so, and when the county was contacted, the county wouldn't do anything. Wouldn't even, other than asking you guys to not do these things, that's all the county was willing to do.
And we've certainly committed to not allow those events. But I would like the town and our neighbors to know that we don't have any lighting or systems like that. And in particular, we're about to engage in a multi-million-dollar renovation of the park. And part of that will include some lighting replacements, and it'll all be dark skies compliant. So we really want to be good neighbors to our neighbors. That's our intent. There was some discussion about people living illegally in the park, this certainly was a
People
concern.
living in the trailers in your storage area.
Okay, so this, I think, was a concern. I've been with our company for about 5 years now. When I first joined the company, there was certainly a problem like that at Soledad Canyon. For at least the last 2 years or so, I would say that we have been pretty squeaky clean.
So how do you work, how people live there for 3
No.
months, and then they're out for a week, and they go back in for 3 months? How does that
No.
work?
So members, we're a membership-based campground system. So if you're a Thousand Trails member, you can stay for 21 days, and then you have to be somewhere else for 7. Now, we do also reserve campsites for people. If they would like to, if they have a favorite campsite, say I want this to be my campsite and I don't want anyone else to camp here, we will actually let them reserve that particular campsite.
For their 7 days that they're out?
No one else can be there at all. But then, for those folks, that's where we manage the days that they're allowed to be at the park within the 6-month period per the county CP.
So 21 days in, out for
That's for a
7.
member, yeah.
21 days in, out for 7, 21, 7, 21, 7.
That's what they can.
Ad
Yes.
infinitum.
Yes. So we have a lot of members who are full-time RVers, and they travel around the country, or more realistically, through the southwestern U.S., staying at one park after another. Some folks tend to stay more local and maybe do their 3 weeks at Soledad and 1 week down at Wilderness Lakes in Menifee or someplace like that. But that is allowed in our system. But it's a very different thing than what was allowed to happen several years ago, where people just lived there and it wasn't a good situation.
You do know that the school bus stops over 1,000 Trails every day?
I thought that stopped.
It did.
Yeah.
It's just past our property.
Yeah.
It's in front of almost that baseball
So
field.
there are no children leaving 1,000 Trails and getting on the school bus?
I don't know that,
I don't know
but the
that.
bus doesn't stop at our park.
But no one's
But
allowed
it
to
doesn't-
live
the
there.
problem was the park, the bus. The bus is great. We love the bus. We love the school district.
Yeah.
But if people are sending their children to school, then they're living on the property.
No one's living at Soledad, and we're pretty diligent about that. And
So
not
you
only
keep all the records? You keep records? Because the county says that there are no records.
yeah, we do keep records.
Okay, by name, and people show IDs.
Yes.
And then after 21 days, you go knock on a campsite and say you gotta,
Well, they make a reservation for a certain period, from October 1st to 21st, for example. So, and we obviously are not, we're not the police, and we don't want to act like the police either. But we're pretty darn diligent about making sure that folks aren't living there long term. And if there is any concern about families that are living there and sending kids to school in the local school district, that is something that you should get me some information about, because that's the kind of thing that we want to prevent. We're not in the business of operating like Cali Lakes, where their stated intent is to be a homeless camp. That's not our purpose.
so you're saying that, well, I mean, that was the case. There were people with, they had their yard set up and they had steps. All that, people were living there, 1,000 Trails, nobody lives there, and not one person other than a caretaker is there for more than 21 days at any given time.
No, you're speaking in some really absolute terms that I won't. But that is certainly our intent, and no one should be living there, you're right.
So an individual member could reserve a campsite for a
That's
whole year?
right. That's
and nobody
right.
would ever use that?
And we call that an annual membership. So they reserve this campsite, and then they can come and go within that campsite, and no one else can.
And when they vacate that campsite after 21 days, it's completely vacated?
No,
They have storage
they're
there,
allowed,
and
they're allowed to leave their RV on that space if they want. And per the county rules, if someone is in that particular situation, that's different than a transient member, they're allowed to be there 90 days within a 6-month period. So that's a little different category for those folks.
So people who
But again,
have-
it's still a campsite, it's not a residence. We still do have a few members, some of the older legacy annual members that you know, they have a shed behind their RV and some, you know, they've done a little landscape improvements, and we're not forcing all those folks to rip that out. But what we are doing is diligently enforcing the intent that it's a camp space. It's not a residence.
So you're, just so I understand, you have annual members
Yes,
who
we-
reserve one spot forever.
For their sole use, right.
And then they can renew it for the next year, so.
They can take a different spot the following month.
Oh, so they are,
They go and keep it a year at a time. So like spot XYZ1, I book it for 2019. So 2020 comes up and you say, okay, you can't have XYZ1, you can have XYZ2.
Something like that, yes.
But
And in
they
the past, that was
stay-
not the case. In years past, folks took
They
an
lived there
annual
for
site and
years.
stayed there for a long time.
yes.
And then if they reserve, so XYZ1, I booked it for 2019. I can be there, I think what you said was 90 days out of 6 months per county. But I can just leave my stuff there, so it's basically storage for that time.
Right.
So they stay for 90 days,
Mhm.
and then they leave for how long?
They have to go home. So
And then when can they come back again?
the county rule is that no one can stay more than 90 consecutive days. So most of our annual members, they tend to come and go. You know, most of them are fairly transient.
So they could stay like 89 days and leave for a day, and then come back and stay another 89 days and leave for a day, and then that would be fine?
By the letter of the law, yes, that would be okay.
And
We
do
also cap the number of days in any year
To what?
that someone can stay there, so 270 in any year.
So if
Is
they're,
that a
if
calendar
they're,
year or is that?
That is
or is that
a
from the-
rolling year based on the anniversary of the membership.
so they could be there for 80, I just want to understand, 89 days out a day, 89 days out a day, 89 days out a day.
Yeah.
Is that 270 consecutive? That's not consecutive. no.
Total.
Just give you a break.
And you're at you know that your cabins are on, you can rent your cabin through, when's it, no. The Expedia, one of those, I can't remember.
Hotels.com.
which one.
Yeah, we put our rental cabin.
Now being operated according to what you're describing now.
Okay.
So the EIR doesn't describe the types of uses that is being used, and it assumed during, straight up, during most of the time, during the rainy season in particular, the campground would have very little use. And so that's not consistent with people staying for 89 days or 30 days or whatever, 270 days a year, whatever it is. So that's a problem in that the current operation is not consistent with the EIR assumptions that were made in terms of adverse impacts and their mitigation. So I don't know how to get around that.
Yeah, I'm not intimately familiar with that, so I don't know. So some of the other issues that were mentioned that we might want to talk about. Someone made a comment about the swimming pools being filled with mud and stagnant. And,
We never made that comment.
well, it was in the county journal where I read it.
I don't know what the county journal is.
Country Journal?
Country
Oh.
journal, sorry.
Well, that was, I can't speak to that comment, but
Okay.
we're all going to make a statement about it.
We have beautiful sparkling pools if you'd like to come swim.
Well, as a community, we used to get use out of those pools, so I don't know what the,
Well, part of our CUP does not allow non-guests at the campground to use the facilities.
but you can have retail hotel guests in the cabins. That's a little
Well,
inconsistent, I think.
That's someone staying at the campground. And so these are park models. They're meant for campgrounds. They're like little miniature log cabin type things. And so if you go stay in an RV space, in your RV or your tent or in the rental cabin, then you're allowed to use the pool. But the county has said that we shouldn't be open to the public as a swimming pool.
But you can't get an RV space unless you're a member.
No, you're allowed to come and stay in an RV. If you'd like to come this weekend, you're allowed to come in as a retail guest, and you can stay there for up to 3
So
days.
what's the difference in a retail guest and the public? That's what I'm not understanding.
Well, a member of the public can be a retail guest, but you can't just drive up and go use the swimming pool.
Well, you used to have a fee.
Yeah, there used to be.
Right, well, you
nominal
can't drive up and pay and use the swimming pool. You need to be staying there as a
Well, they used to have it
camper.
available for Acton residents,
Yeah.
that we could pay a day fee, is what I recall.
Well, that's how it, no, well, that was a long time ago.
I know, I'm old.
Yeah. And then
Well, it was not that long ago that we used to do
It was
that.
actually
But
allowed, it was
it's,
permitted under the CUP, but it's a different, actually, you don't even have a CUP, so
yeah.
let's not.
The most
The last
recent.
CUP that expired in 2008 or 2007, or whenever it was, did not allow that type of use.
Correct.
Although before it had, in the prior CUP.
I want to come and swim. How are you going to make that work for me?
Complimentary memberships for all members of the town council.
Oh, no, that's not
thank you.
going to work.
No.
But, so some of the other concerns that were brought up, there was a mention of,
I'm stressing Jackie out, I'm sorry.
The town council does not want to have any honorary memberships or
Okay.
anything like that.
there was,
I need to make this clear to everyone.
yes.
Okay, go Jackie.
There was a concern about some barbed wire on a fence down by,
On the west side, yes.
yes. And I actually drove there this afternoon to have a look, and I agree, that shouldn't be like that. So we're going to be taking that down as quickly as we can.
I'm still not understanding the difference between a public and a retail guest.
So maybe, I'm not using those terms. What is not allowed is someone to come use the facilities without staying at the campground as a registered guest.
Okay, but
I think
the
paying
public-
guest is what you're looking for. Somebody that's paying a fee to be there can use the pool. If you're not paying a fee, you're not using the
No,
pool.
I
no
understand
more
that.
days.
It's much
There's no
deeper
day,
than that,
yeah.
because
He's saying-
the CUP that expired in 2006 says that the public is not allowed
Right.
to use anything, even as a paying guest.
And the intent
So
of,
now it's different.
the intent of that is to stop the day use permits. That's the intent.
Well, that's not what I've been through the file, that is not what the file said is the intent. But in 1981 and 1991, it was something quite different. What the historic documents reflect and why the permit was issued in the first place in 1981 was, since it's a private membership, the usage would be substantially reduced, particularly in the winter. And so that's why it says there will not be any concerns with contaminating the Santa Clara River, because the facilities will not be in heavy use during the winter and during rainy season.
Which
Because it's a private-
is the fact pattern. And our occupancy is quite low in the rainy season, and about 95% or more of all the use is just membership use. This is, Thousand Trails Soledad is a kind of a minimally visited park in our network, very heavily member used and mostly in the summertime.
So how many retail guests, how many spots are available for retail guest use?
I don't know off the top of my head, it's a limited number.
And you said it's lower during the winter typically.
Yes.
I'm not expecting an exact number, but are we talking like 20% lower, 50% lower? Like how much significantly would you estimate?
About 50 percentage points lower.
But that's going to change when they finish the renovations.
Well, that's fine.
Right now, you don't even use a big, large part of your park, so, but you're fixing that so that you can. So any statistics you give us historically
No, I get
speaking,
it. I just,
is it really reflective of what's going to happen
yeah,
under this,
looking forward.
under the next CUP?
So what other questions can we help with?
Well, we've written some letters to the county, and I'm surprised they didn't share them with you if they haven't. But a big concern we have is contamination in Santa Clara River. And,
Jackie, would it be fair to say that that is kind of our primary concern?
no, the noise, the lights.
Well, I understand that, but that's a big deal.
Well, that's what I'm starting with.
Okay, so, I mean, so do you understand where we're coming from?
Sure.
It's not about the park and the people using it and the use, other, you know, that doesn't disrupt
Impacts,
neighbors,
yeah.
impacts, right? So all the people going and enjoying the park, we're fine with that, and we actually wish that as a community we can enjoy it like we used to be able to as well. But that's not what we're after. What's really important, and I think in my mind, I don't know about everybody else, but it is the Santa Clara River and the septic systems and the use, and are those septic systems actually up to the task of what you're doing now and what you intend to do with your new CUP?
Sure. And Mike, do you want to take a moment and?
Is that fair, Jackie? Is that, I mean, that's what I think the major, you know, there are noise issues and lighting issues for the residents around there, but I think that's a big one.
Yeah, it's.
Because that's going to affect everybody in
Sure.
Acton. If there's an issue with the Santa Clara River,
Absolutely.
everybody who's a septic.
Well, it would
in
affect
Acton is
us
gonna
because
get
that's
looked at under
our water
close
source is
scrutiny.
subterranean.
So I don't have all the history, I've only been with Equity Lifestyle since May of this year. But we take the contamination issue very seriously. We have our wells tested monthly to make sure there's no contamination with the wells. We have a waste discharge for our swimming pool and our splash pad, which was done in 2014. We currently have a permit for redoing our drain field for our laundry facility, which is going on right now. And we're in the process of working with the State Water Board to obtain waste discharge requirements for all of our other septic systems. Is my understanding, up until 2014, we were under the county health department for our discharge permits. So we've applied to the water board for our permits. We're doing the appropriate testing, and we're doing upgrades as necessary.
Well, that's one of our biggest concerns, because you don't have a WDR for any of
We're
the
in.
septic systems that are seriously, that are really the threat to the water quality in the Santa Clara River. Splash pad, your pool, and your laundry, which you've done the WDR applications for, that's not. The Santa Clara River has been declared to be an impaired body for fecal coliform and coliform bacteria all the way up to and west of the land gauging station, okay? We have been told by a number, over the last 10 years, by a number of agencies, that it's the residents of Acton and Agua Dulce that are causing that problem. But they have no basis for that. But we do know that there are several campgrounds on the river, in the riverbed, with over 100 septic systems at grade in the floodplain that are not airtight, that if they do get flooded, they will contaminate the river. And so the existing status of the status of the existing septic systems for all I think there was 700 or 800 septic hookups for trailers and your cabins and all that. I mean, huge number, all of which, except in a few places, lie within the floodplain.
Sure.
That's a huge problem for us and a big concern. So, and that's why we're leading off with it, and none of them are airtight. The WDR requirements have been around since the mid-90s, so I don't know who told you you were under county or whatever came off county in 2014. The WDR has always been done by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. I know of homes in Acton on 5-acre parcels, they were required to do a WDR for just their house. And Carl, who was a town council member, it killed him. He just, I mean, it didn't kill him, but he had to leave he never finished his house. He had to leave his house because it was, and that's a single house on 5 acres. And the county didn't even know that you guys had septic systems there until 2014. So at least, I'm sorry, not the county, the state health, the people who administer the WDR, the State Water Quality Control Board. So, and they issued you a letter in 2014, please submit a WDR for your 12 septic systems. That's 5 years ago, and no letter, no response was ever given.
So that was submitted 5 years ago, from my understanding.
No, I have spoken with them several times in the last year, and it still shows up on there. You know, you have a GIS system, you can track what's going on. The letter was submitted to Thousand Trails in 2014.
Because I went on their GIS system and didn't find anything.
Well, I can show you the letter, I've got it on my system. We submitted it to the county. We gave them a copy of it a month ago with our letter, because this was the biggest issue that we let off with in our letter. And so that, the county has it, and, you know, we sent it to, who's your planner, Ramon Cordova?
Ramon Cordova, yes.
Yeah, he's got all of it, so we sent it over a month ago.
Yeah, so we're happy to work with all the applicable agencies. We'll meet all the requirements, and we employ professional treatment system operators and water system operaters. We do everything as well as we
quality
possibly can.
engineers on staff, one of which has been working with the water board to get WDRs for Soledad Canyon.
For the septic system.
No, for the splash pad, for the laundry.
Well, no,
and
those are the
pool.
existing
No, but
ones.
we've gone in for permits for all of the other septic systems.
When did you do that?
It was my understanding 2014 we did that.
Not according to the Regional Water Quality Control, but the engineers. I think is his name. The only thing they have is the letter, the record of the letter that they sent to Thousand Trails, which I know you guys weren't there, so you.
But we do have coworkers who were here then, and we'll follow up on
Yeah,
that.
we'll follow up.
Well, talk to Ramon. We attached it to our letter so that they understood what. Yeah, exactly. So that's one of our biggest concerns is water quality and protection.
That's our concern too. I mean,
And
we absolutely.
we also have concerns because our water haulers who are not asking, they had CUPs before they expired, they applied to renew them, so they're shielded to operate. But the county's come back and told them you have to do a hydrology study, which we've addressed that in a recent letter, for their CUP.
Sure.
So we've asked regional planning, why do the water haulers have to do, and they, each individual use much less water than the 1,000 hookups that would be used at Thousand Trails if you were fully subscribed. Why
There's
is
a lot of conjecture in that statement.
why is it that the Thousand Trails doesn't have to do the hydrology study? We don't think the water haulers should have to do a hydrology study, but it's a fair question since the water haulers are essential to the existence of this community, why they would have so many barriers thrown up before them. And there are people who believe that the county wants to have the water haulers shut down. And that's a mechanism that they could possibly succeed in that. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but you heard it tonight, that's what's been said. So, so it seems untoward that these water haulers who have CUPs and timely apply for renewals and therefore under CEQA have no obligation to do a hydrology study are being required to do one, yet Thousand Trails is getting a brand new CUP. There's no renewal here. This is a brand new CUP for this operation. Doesn't have to do that. That's disturbing to us because regional planning is supposed to apply the process uniformly to everybody. And you guys are all neighbors. You're literally stone's throw away from each other. And you pull from the same source. And so that's a problem that we have also commented on the county. And I don't know what they've told you. They've never gotten back to us with our letter. So that was another big issue. So it wasn't just the water quality, it was also the CUP process. And is the county applying a uniform standard on what has to be done in terms of applying or securing a CUP for sources that pull from that water source? Let's see. The other concern is that RV storage facilities they're not permitted on A1 land, even with the CUP. So that was another concern that I don't want to be left off the table. You guys have a lot of storage facilities. We've had problems in the past with people living there. But it's all on, it's right there in the riverbed, RVs with, they've got, they might leak oil, it's right there on the river. And it's not even allowed use under any circumstance on A1 land. So we have a problem with that, and we've pointed that out, that storage of RVs is not an appropriate use. It's not even allowed use, even with the CUP. So we pointed that out to the county too, and I don't want that to be left off the table. Because people have lived in those, people have lived in the campers that are.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who have done a lot of bad things over
Well,
there.
yeah. And it's a problem. So I think those are probably the main things, but I'm surprised Ramon hasn't given you the copy of our letter. We can forward it to you if you want.
That would be helpful if you would. You've got my email address.
Yeah, you guys
I'll
have
share it
cards,
with the
that
rest
would
of
be
our team.
great.
Sure, I'll grab a
That'd be
card
awesome.
and we'll share it around.
Because we've asked the county to just to have all of the agencies with jurisdiction over the river. Army Corps, Regional Water Quality Control Board, Cal EPA, Federal EPA, County Health, whoever, to jointly give us assurances that there's not been any contamination of the river, and there will not be any contamination of the river with this CUP. And I don't know how to do that, because it's essential to our community, because we're facing, as you heard tonight, we've been told, there were for how many years did people not build because our community was told that our residential septic systems on 10 and 20 acre parcels, one septic, is contaminating the river, right? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time tonight, and please understand that we're here and available. Please call or write anytime, and we're happy to work with you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you just briefly tell us what it is that the multi-million-dollar renovation might include, and what's your time frame?
Well,
Kind of.
we're pulling that plan together now, and it should be completed over the next couple of years if everything stays on track.
Okay.
And we're just going through, a lot of the buildings and infrastructure are just old. It was built quite a while ago. And we're sort of original glory and original purpose. So when, at the completion of it, it should function like a brand new park and be a welcoming place for people to come camp and spend their weekends and their summer vacations.
And if I could speak to, also right now on the books, we have two big projects that are going on. One was a result of the flood in 2017. So we had an at-grade crossing that was washed out. So right now we have a permit with California Fish and Wildlife to reestablish that crossing. So that's going to happen within the next 60 days. That'll allow us to close the east, I believe it's the east gate, so that our camper traffic won't be going out onto.
For Ross Drive?
Yes, correct.
So they'll be inside the property using the bridge to cross over the river instead of going out up onto Ross Drive Road. And then the other project that's going on right now is an electrical infrastructure upgrade. Campground was built back in the 70s. It has a lot of direct burial wire. So we're going back and we're doing conduits. We just completed a maintenance program on all of our transformers and our primary system. So now we're going back and spending about $550,000 to go and upgrade our secondary system.
Sidebar, go back to something that you touched on earlier
Sure.
about the razor wire. You said
Yes.
you're going to move it. Is there like a timeline that you guys are looking to do that? Is it something immediate or?
By what time, what day this week?
I
Very
like
soon,
that. I
yeah,
like
sometime this week. It's just silly how there's some excess wire over there on those fence posts. So we'll have to take that.
We've asked the county to coordinate with us, because there are a lot of properties in your area going through the CP process right now. So we've asked the county to coordinate with us on trail connectivity in that area. We noticed that a condition that Parks and Rec had put on the 1,000 Trail CUP draft at this point was a trail across one portion of the property, but they didn't get the trail across the other portion to connect up to the Wolf Sanctuary Trail, so they missed the gap. So we're talking to them about that. That's something.
We would 100% be supportive of any trail interconnection, absolutely.
As long as it's outside, you don't want people going through your campground.
Well, no, most of our campgrounds, I mean, Soledad is unique in my group of campgrounds in that it's fenced in. And in fact, in the original CUP, they required the chain link fence with barbed wire on top. And then in the subsequent CUP, it only said a 6-foot game fence. It didn't require the barbed wire, at least. Most of our parks are open, and we have trails going through, and it doesn't need to be an encampment
No, it doesn't need,
surrounded by
and
fence.
the Pacific Crest Trail goes right through the KOA. I mean, so people.
Right.
So you're
That
saying
makes
that,
sense.
that you would rather not have, if possible, like if that was a
Correct,
thing,
yeah.
you'd rather not have?
Yeah, we see no value in fencing, and except the debatable RV storage area, someplace where you want some
Well,
security.
in this particular area, but you're talking about, I'm saying like the whole,
Yeah, there's no reason to fence the whole.
Yeah, that wasn't anything that the community.
No, it's,
I'm not sure why it was built into the plan like that.
Since this is actually a whole new CUP, to Pam's question, because we've already, well, I don't know how to ask this question, but would it be possible to do a day use?
It's certainly possible.
Build that into your
We do at many parks, so,
Please do.
yeah.
I think that's something.
As long as the septic system's good.
If it can
I mean, we
support.
don't want
the-
anything there, but the septic
You
system's
can go
not.
at home, you won't have to overload it. Sorry.
But I do know
All
that's.
right, the meeting's going south really
I'm
quick.
so proud, so proud.
I think Tom's tired right now.
Well, I do think it's something that has come up in the past when people have commented on, Thousand Trails. That was something that was very much appreciated in the past. So if that is something that can be worked with the CPA,
Well,
I think
absolutely.
that you would have
Yes. Yeah.
the support of the community.
Yeah, we love that.
We've already said that this needs to go through another environmental review, so that would just be part of it, so.
Jeremy?
When we moved here 13 years ago, that was the place you went. You had Civil War reenactments, you had the pool for day use. I mean, it was a nice place to go on a weekend with your family. And it was
We'd like to return it to
so, yeah.
We used to do Girl Scout day camp there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the
I mean,
one of the
it's
things I really love about our company is when especially if I talk to neighbors of some of our Thousand Trails parks or the longtime members, they grew up as kids in these parks. So it's heartwarming.
Could you let me know when you have the numbers, like how many of your slots are allowed for retail guests?
Sure.
Just real quick, since you're up there, one of the issues.
Edison
and.
Public Works on the water, the clean, safe water program that's going to put hundreds of dollars of new taxes on people's property taxes.
We got ours today. It was $112.37.
I heard some people were getting $700.
$700 bills, yeah.
Yeah, ours was just 112.
So they're coming. They also just released their, RFP or open for bids or whatever you want to call it. Because it's all grant-based. So I guess, I don't know, Kelly, is the Acton Women's Club going to come up with a really good idea for water storage and water cleanup that they could bid to this? Because it's supposed to be community organizations, Do you guys have any engineers who can?
Whip something up?
But the problem with the women's club is it's not politically.
Yeah, we can't, we don't.
Yeah, but you like clean water, I mean.
We do like clean water.
Well, me and Jackie would say, or me and Kelly would say that at the meeting, they'd kick us out.
Oh, they
Well,
would.
the whole program is grant-based.
Contact information from Ellie. Do you have a card, Ellie?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right. So with that, we're adjourning an hour early. Wow.
Yeehaw.
It does feel like it's dark. That's just because, you understand what
Meeting adjourned.
Kelly, I'll email this list to you.
Thank you very much.
Are you adjourned?
We are adjourned.